about. Taking body. Hello and welcome to another vlog. Born and raised in Prescot. The year is 1986 and I was stood here more or less on this spot filming, not for Born and Raised in Prescot. I was working at Knowsley Adult Centre at the time. Knowsley Adult Centre was above the old post office on Church Street there, and I was commissioned to do a film for Prescot Unemployed Resource Centre, which was a documentary film, and it was basically going around Prescot and looking at the decay in manufacturing in Prescot, because in 1986 it was obvious that the BI was in trouble. The B.I.C.C was in trouble, so I made this documentary film to show that decline. Unfortunately, not much of the film remains. In fact, virtually nothing of the film remains apart from that photograph of me filming it. I don't know what happened to the film. I don't know. I never saw it after that point because I stopped working at the adult centre and changed my job. But it was a fascinating film. We went around at Prescot in a car, and then we got out and we interviewed people on the street in 1986 and stuff. It would have been a great piece of historical footage if it had survived today. My feelings are it was on VHS film, and it's probably been binned like all the other VHS films that have been made. A lot of them have been destroyed now. Analog film, old analog VHS film is well, you know, people can erase them and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do today is I've devised a walk to retrace the actual path, the actual way that we went, and we actually took a car down Aspinall Street, down Station Road, and onto Bridge Road, up onto Warrington Road, Kemble Street and stuff like that. So I've done a circular walk, and yeah, come along with me on this walk, and what we'll do is we'll have a look at something that today has been totally erased from Prescot's memory. There is nothing here to say it even existed, and if you're 30 years of age or under, you will have no memory of this whatsoever. It was known in Prescot as the good old BI, the B.I.C.C, British Insulated Calendar Cables Limited. It was the biggest cable factory, copper wire manufacturers in the world, and it was here in Prescot, and yet there is virtually nothing to show for it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk around Prescot and we're going to retrace the steps that I took in 1986 and see how things have changed. And I'll just use it as a memory thing. So I'll try and remember what I remember, and anything else I'll just flash up with some old photographs and stuff like that. So let's go. So this is Aspinall Street now, and it was the main street going down here. It was a very long street that doesn't exist anymore, that took you right to Prescot station, railway station, but it's not there. Like everything, it changes with time. So on the right here, where the what is now the back of the Prescot centre, shopping centre, here was the B.I.C.C training centre. Just here, if you want to swing the camera around, you can see this building here. Well, there was the Prescot training centre, because they used to have dances there and stuff like that. And around about 1970, it was actually knocked down, and it became Prescot Civic Suite. So in the 1980s, it was known as Prescot Civic Suite or Civic Hall. It's the same thing. Dances and stuff, you could hire the hall out. But it was the B.I.C.C's first thing. It's hard to describe what the B.I.C.C meant to Prescot. So we're coming up to Station Road here. This was Station Road down there, but it was a big long road. I'm going to flash up a photograph of how it used to look. Station Road. It went right down there. If you ever went to school at Briar Road Primary School, you would often go down that way to Station Road. It was very industrial, that's all I can say about it. There's not much left of Station Road now. So this is the route I took in 1986. We went straight down there, straight through that building, which obviously wasn't there. At the bottom of these houses, on the right, was a gate, the gate to the wire mill, or the fine wire mill. Just to the right there, and then you had a line of walls on both sides, which was full of generators. There's a kind of an electrical thing going on. I'm not quite sure what they were, but perhaps people who worked in the BI would tell me what they were. Now we have to divert off now. You see what I mean by nothing being left of the past? Virtually nothing at this point anyway. Now, this is called Cable's Retail Park. Again, this would have been a continuation, just over here, of Station Road. So we wouldn't be in the factory at all now, but we'd be surrounded by the B.I.C.C on either side. They call it Cable Retail Park. Ironically, they built a new road down here, and they call it Steely Way. I don't know what steel has got to do with copper refineries, but you know what, the council work in mysterious ways, and they give these names to things. Again, there's nothing to show here what was here 30 years ago. The biggest cable manufacturer in the world, Prescot. Yeah, it's nothing, you know, this is recent history, by the way. We're not talking about medieval England here. We're not talking about Tudor times. We're talking about 30 years ago. There's nothing, virtually nothing to commemorate it, apart from a few plaques here and there. A few museum pieces and photographs, that's it. So, you come down here. If we just look over here to the left, to the right, sorry, all this area here was the cables factory, and all this area over that way is the cables factory as well. All over there, part of the cables factory, all this is the cables factory, B.I.C.C. That was the drum yard over there, with the cable drums were kept and they were exported all over the world. Would have been full of cable drums over there. Somebody thought it would be a good idea to erect this monument to the steel workers of Prescot. Steel. Did you know that steel was manufactured in Prescot? What a load of rubbish. I just don't know, it beggars belief sometimes. Steely Way. Carry on. So this was a continuation of Station Road that we were on up at the top there. It's now called Station Road Boulevard. Yeah, let's go across. Station Road Boulevard. If you were down here in the 1980s, you would hear the hum of machines, and it would have been very oppressive because you would have walls on either side. It would have been like going through, literally walking through a factory, but these walls were on either side. You had generators on one side, and you had banging and machinery, and you could hear it all as you were walking down this road, which when you were a child seemed to go on forever. This road seemed a very long way. A lot of houses for sale here. Can't be very popular, can they? We used to call them Barratt homes because they were just knocked up, and they just knocked these houses up. So we'd come round the corner here. On the left hand side, some people may remember the old Midland Bank, a little mini Midland Bank for the factory workers. So on the right hand side it is. On the left hand side we're coming up to what would have been, where these houses are now, the oldest part of the B.I.C.C, going back to 1909, and the most beautiful building that I believe should have been preserved. Now, the B.I.C.C at the gate just here where that pathway is now, about there was the gateway into the B.I.C.C. To the right of there was the main office building, which went up the hill in that direction. To the left of me here, this beautiful field of wildflowers, was the Imperial Hotel, which was very popular with workers from the good old BI, and it was always packed. there, and also it was a railway hotel for Prescot railway station. It stood here, a lovely old building, which is now gone. We're going to go up Bridge Road. You will see here there is a sculpture showing cable drums and electrical cables going down, which is the only memory of the B.I. left standing after the event. So, okay, we're going to go up this end of Bridge Road now, and we'll turn back on ourselves. So everything that's on the left here was inside the B.I. factory. So all where these houses are now was inside the B.I. factory. Given the fact that for 150 years the B.I. had been smelting copper and producing toxic chemicals, it was said that no plants could grow on any of the roads around the B.I. because of the toxic fumes. So this is in fact the brownfield site, and university studies have been made on the toxicity of the earth inside there. So I don't know whether it's safe to live in one of these houses, but it seems to be a lot of people have put their houses up for sale there. Maybe they're just not well. Anyway, listen, here, right, was an Art Deco building known as the B.I. General Office. It was magnificent. It would today have made a wonderful hotel for visitors to Prescot, and certainly to visitors to the Shakespeare North. It would have been brilliant, but the powers that be decided to demolish it, which is a crying shame. It was absolutely stunning. It was a stunning building inside and out. Nothing's left. Everything. They've erased the past. It's almost like the planners and the developers are ashamed of Prescot's history and what it meant to the people of Prescot. The B.I., it's hard to explain how much it represented Prescot and gave Prescotians an identity. When we used to call it the good old B.I. And everybody in Prescot imagined, I know I did when I was living here, that you would end up working at the B.I. and you'd have a job for life. But obviously them jobs for life were not jobs for life at all. They were, you know, British manufacturing has for decades been run into the ground. And now, you know, unlike Germany, which invested in its industrial heritage and its industrial might, Britain decided to succumb to foreign imports and just flood the market with cheap foreign goods. And that's where we are now. And the manufacturing base and the skills base of Victorian and Edwardian entrepreneurs is now gone. Now we're going up Bridge Road at the moment, and this is the bridge that gives Bridge Road its name. In medieval times, this road was called Cockshoots for obvious reasons. Cockshoots Lane. So we're on the top of a bridge that gives Bridge Road its name. This was built by the B.I.C.C, this bridge. And that side was the B.I.C.C, and this side was the B.I.C.C. It was built especially to build railway sidings from the main line at Prescot station, so they could take goods to Liverpool docks and to Wigan and the north as well. It was especially, they would have special trains that would go under the bridge straight into the works and load up the wagons and then come out here and export the goods. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant setup. It was also used for things called bogies. And a bogie is a miniature train that would ferry stuff around the BI site. My uncle Peter, he used to drive a bogie. He used to drive a bogie under Cockshoots Lane. So we're coming up to the end of Bridge Road now. On the left here was the B.I.C.C gate. I think it was gate number 3, I'm not sure. And on the right was the publicity department of the BI on this side, where this car dealership is now. So the BI stretched all over here as well. So you can see it took up an enormous amount of space around Prescot. That was the BI gate over there, and the water tower was in the background. The water tower was built in the 1920s. So we're on to Warrington Road now. This is Warrington Road, and over there where them houses are, there used to be elms houses there before the BI expanded, but they were knocked down I think in the 1940s to make way for more expansion of the BI. It was an ever-growing factory. So we're going to go down here. Elms houses would have been here. And about here was another BI gate, and we have an old photograph of them factory workers. So all this has changed around here. When I was growing up, there were no trees here. No trees. But this part of Prescot is this path is almost as it was about 200 years ago, when Kemble Street was merely a country lane, and so was this. And there have never been that many trees here for about 200 years. And when I was here the other night with Catherine, we were at twilight, we could hear birds singing on Kemble Street, bedding down for the night, which is a wondrous sound to hear. I never heard them any time when I was growing up in Prescot. Certainly not here on Kemble Street. Now, on this corner here, there wouldn't have been a road down there. There was no roundabout. It was just coming down here onto Kemble Street. There was the accessories division of the B.I.C.C. In about 1965, there was a massive fire which I witnessed from my house in 105 Kemble Street next to the B.I. And all this building here was on fire. Fire engines everywhere in 1965. Something I've never forgotten, in actual fact. Kemble Street has changed a lot. In fact, this road would have come down, it wouldn't have been here. The factory would have started about here and the road would have gone straight down there. So they've made the road wobble a bit, which it didn't do in the olden days. This was a straight line. If it wasn't for the fact that we've got old photographs to prove that this stuff existed, it would be hard to imagine what it would have been like here. My old house was where Prescot Tyres and MOT was there. It's an old house dating from around about 1750, that today would probably be grade 2 listed. So this was my old house. Bond Street, workers used to stream up and down here to the sound of the BI buzzer early in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock and 8:30, and if you got in any later you had money docked. And they used to stream down Bond Street and they used to go into what was the BI gate just down here on Kemble Street. This again, factory walls going down here. All part of the lost heritage that was the BI. The truth is that with anything in life, what remains not by design, but by luck. We're lucky to have this stuff most of the time. And people's memories. Now, the BI gate was just over there. That would be the gate where people come in and out of the BI. And there were factory steeples and all kinds of things going on there. Yeah. Industrial Prescot. We should celebrate it, shouldn't we? We shouldn't be knocking everything down. There is money to be made. People are interested in industrial archaeology these days, industrial tourism, and some towns and cities across the north have made good heritage attractions because of them. You know, the National Mining Museum in Yorkshire, people come for miles to go down the pit. yeah, you can go down the pit there. Wouldn't it be great if we had a copper manufacturing museum in Prescot where people could make their own copper pennies to take home and discover all about copper manufacturing. I was going to call this a figure of 8 walk because I was going to go down Station Road. We're back on Station Road now and Aspinall Street at the junction, but we're going to go straight ahead. We're not going to do the figure of 8. We're just going to go straight ahead and look at where the B.I., what land the B.I. would have taken up. The street's down here. This is Chester Street down here, and you will see at the bottom there is a wall going through there. That's known as Box Alley, where in the First World War ammunition boxes were used to build a wall. Just after the First World War, so about 1919, they used ammunition boxes for the wood, and they called it Box Alley. Eventually it was replaced by a brick wall, but that's basically where the B.I. factory began and ended, was just over that wall. So that goes right the way down Kemble Street, and we'll take you to the end here and show you where it ended. So you can see this is William Street, and you can see a continuation there of Box Alley, which is the brick wall now. It used to be a wooden box wall. Remember, this is the same route I took in 1986 when we did our documentary, of which obviously none of it survives today. So we are on Sewell Street now, and the B.I. would have begun around about here, almost where the Tesco's is now. So then again, all the area inside the B.I. would have been here, basically, and there would have been at the bottom here a B.I. gate for admittance to and from the factory, and this would have been manned by a gatekeeper who would check your documents before letting you into the B.I. And this part took up the drum yard of the B.I., where copper cables were wound onto wooden drums. Everything being made inside the B.I., by the way. The copper cables were made there, and the wooden drums were made in the B.I. Everything was self-sufficient. It was a self-contained unit of all these different workshops and elements that came together to produce this magnificent product. So the B.I. gate would be approximately about here, somewhere over here. This, where the NHS is now, was the Engine Pub, which was a great haunt for workers at the BI to go for a pint after a hard day's work, coppering. Because that's the trade name for it, it's called coppering. You copper something, and you make copper, and it's called coppering, isn't it? I think. Back on Steely Way again. Steely Way. A road that didn't exist back then. 30 years ago. Didn't exist. We're on to Manchester Road. And again, on Manchester Road, it's probably this bit has got remnants of where the BI was. Where these walls are here on both sides of the road was a tunnel that went under. It went under here, and that would have carried the bogies, which would trundle round the factory. The factory was such a big size that to transfer goods from one department to another for finishing or for melting down or etc etc, you had to have this train network. The BI would have stretched to this side here. It would have taken all out over all of there, and it would have taken over all of there. The only good thing I can say about the demise of the BI is to see some magnificent trees, because it's tree lined now, which is good for nature, good for wildlife. It's something good. So there's Whitaker's Garden Centre. Remember Whitaker's on Liverpool Road? Well, they've now moved to there. And now they've built houses on what was Whitaker's Garden Centre. As we round the corner here, we come to what most people will remember as a blazing hot furnace of a place. As children, we didn't know what it was, what we were looking at here on the left. But this was part over this fence here. It was just, you could look into it and you could see people working in what looked like Dante's Inferno. And that was the B.C.R, the British Copper Refinery. It was the only one of its kind in the world where copper ingots were imported from places like Rhodesia and South Africa, and they were melted down and turned into copper wire at this very point here. And the B.C.R took over all of this stretch here right down to Bridge Road there. Okay, and that brings us back onto Bridge Road here. All of this, again, like I said, all of this area here was part of the B.C.R. And you can now see, if you put the camera through, a dog running. So that was the B.C.R. We're back onto Bridge Road, and I'm going to finish the vlog here because we're back at the railway station. So if you've enjoyed that, then leave a comment and say if it brought back any memories to you of the good old B.I.C.C. If you're 30 and under and don't remember any of the B.I.C.C, that would have been a total revelation to you to realise how much Prescot has changed. If you live in one of these houses, tell me, are you all right? Are you still well? Are you're not feeling a bit ill? Camera woman sneezed then, which was very nice addition to the video. You got that for free. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us the like button, share on your social media, leave a comment, and I'll see you again in the next vlog. Bye.
Walking by the buzzer of the good old B.I., rushing down Bond Street, the day shift have arrived. The fine wire department prepares for the day. Gone are the times when copper was king, a job for life in the good old B.I., when a small town in Lancashire took on the world. Forgotten, nothing remains. I remember the drum yard, all the sights and the sounds, burning copper from the Empire in the B.C.R. Men and women of copper, working night and day, smoking chimneys on Bridge Road. From a time when Prescot took on the world. The 5 o'clock buzzer ended the day. The men and women of copper poured into the bath springs to finish the day. Gone are the days when copper was king. Everything forgotten, nothing remains. From a time when Prescot took on the world.
That's not the B.I. buzzer, is it?